Hello everybody and welcome to my 71st VBA 2010 tutorial, and this tutorial is finally going to go into active data objects and using SQL to connect to databases. So I've created a simple database. This will be in, there'll be a link to the sample database in the description, so if you want to use the sample database then feel free to. It's quite a simple one. It's in Access 2013. I think it'll work in 2007, 2010. But it's basically, it's just a table, has users, and it's just got one record in it that has my user ID on my computer and my username. Very simple table. And we're just going to use it as a quick example of how you can use, not a quick example, it's going to be a few tutorials quite in depth, but it's quite a simple database to use for the examples. So the first thing I'm going to do is in our VBA, we're going to want to establish a connection to this database. And this is going to be the whole of this tutorial because it's quite complicated to establish a connection. But bear with me. The first thing I'm going to do is, following on from the previous tutorial, I'm going to use option explicit because we want to make sure our code is in check and all other variables are declared, because we're going to use a global variable. The global variable I'm going to use is going to put dim dbcont as object. And we're declaring it as an object variable, and that just means that later on we can put any type of object that we want to into this global variable, or global object as it now is. And this is because the active data objects is an external reference library, and so without adding in some references we can't reference it directly. So to start off with, we'll just declare it as an object globally, so everywhere can use it. And then when we set it, we're going to set it with the object type then, which is what we're going to do next. So let's go to public function, and I'm going to call this one connect database. What I'm trying to do here is I've created a module called dbConnection_module, and all of my connection functions and deconnection functions are going to go in here along with my global object, and then you just leave this module as it is and work in your other ones. So I'll also export this module and save it in my sample code, and then when you come to use it, just go import file. Select the file that you've downloaded with this module, and you can just import this module, so you're not going to have to type it out if you don't want to. So we're then going to set our object dbcont or database connection equals, and then you want to create object, and then ADODB dot connection. And what this is going to do is it's going to create an object that we can use to connect to our database. The reason we use create object rather than just set it as it is because this is not part of the general VBA library. It's actually, if you go into tools and references, it's in it's in one of these libraries, 2.8 I think, ActiveX data objects library. So you can tick it and then use it in there, but what you'll find is if you give this to other people, they won't have that library ticked, and then their code won't run. Whereas if you do it this way using create objects, you don't need to tick that library, and if you give it to someone else, it's not going to mess up their system. And trust me, you can try and set everyone up with ticking their references, but it takes a long time, and then someone comes along and resets all of their Excels, and then you have to do it all again. So just use this way. Trust me, I've lived through the painful experience. And right, the next thing we want to do is create a database path. So dim string database path string, and this is just going to hold the whatever the location of your database is. So mine is in C drive, users Matthew / desktop / sample database .accdb, all in speech marks. So it's just a string, and it just holds the URL of our database on our drive. So we then want to create another string, and I'm going to call this one scon, so string connection as string, and then I'm going to copy and paste this because it's a bit of typing. And so provider equals Microsoft.ace.oledb 12.0. And this one works for, I think it's 2007 onwards. If you want to do 2003, I'm going to show you how to do that in a second. So then we just want to, now we've done it, we just want to open up our connection. So dbcon dot open, and then we pass it that connection string, and so that will open up our connection to the database. Well, what we want to do before I even consider running this, I'm just going to put dbcon dot close. In fact, I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to set up a new function down here. So public function and close database. And I just want to put dbcon.close and set dbcon equals nothing. And what I also want to do is I'm just going to put in on error resume next. And what this means is, because we can call this whenever we want to, the closed database, and regardless of whether or not the database is open, because of the on error resume next, it's going to close it down. Sometimes if you haven't got it open and you try to close the database, it will error off your code. Sometimes you just want to be able to call it just in case. So I always put on error resume next in there, and then at the end just put on error go to 0, just to get rid of your error handler at the end when it goes back to something else. So we want to put in here call close database, because I don't want to leave this connection open. So I'm going to step into this code using F8 just to show you it running. So we're going to create our object. It's going to set this database path. It's going to create a string that sets our provider, our data source, which is this database path, and then a couple of other things. Don't really matter that much. And then we go onto this one and press F8, and that opens up our connection to the database. And then finally, we just close off our connection. And it will go through, set them to nothing, and done. And so now all we've done at the moment is established a connection to our database and then close down the connection to our database. Now I just want to do a little bit of error handling in here, because I don't want it to only be able to do 2007, 2013. So what I'm going to do is just here, I want to go on error, go to 2013, and then down here I want to do 2013, and above it just put exit function, and I'm going to have another error down here called error, and then I'm going to use the provider that you have for 2013, So scon equals provider Microsoft. So they're very similar. It's just this one uses the Jet engine and that one uses the ACE engine. And then we just want to try and open it up again. But before we open it up, I just want to put a new error handler. So on error, go to error, and then exit function above here. And so it's going to open it up in one of two ways. And if it can't open it up for, and that needs to be 2003. So if it can't open it with this connection string, it's going to skip to the 2003 one and it's going to open it with that connection string. So if you're using access 2003, then that one should work for you. Otherwise, then this one up here should work for you. If you're connecting to a non-access database, then just put into Google the connection string for whatever you're using, be it another Excel sheet or a different type of database, whatever. And you'll be able to find the provider and just take this provider section and change it for what you need to. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments. And like I said, this will be in the sample code download, and you can copy this all in. You don't have to type this all out yourselves. One last thing I forgot to put on, so just make sure you put dbcont.cursor location equals 3 after each of your connections. What this does is just makes the connection on to the client side rather than the server side, which is what we want. So let's just test that, and it's all working fine. So we're connecting and we're all good to go. So that's it for this tutorial. That's how you create a connection to a database. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use these functions to connect to our database and then actually retrieve a record from it. So thanks for listening, and I hope to catch you in the next tutorial.